right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 212 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. Journey updates. I am up 1.2 pounds this week. Total loss since January 2019 is 174 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 26 pounds. You know, if there was one overwhelming thing that I realized over the last almost 6 years here, is that really the key to all of this is balance. For the overwhelming majority of my life, I had an unbalanced relationship with food. I mean, so ridiculously unbalanced, really. It was to the point where I would eat things that I wasn't necessarily hungry at the time, but I wanted to make sure that I was the one in the house that got to eat them all. Like, for a perfect example of this is my father used to buy bagels. I mean, if you live in Stamford, Connecticut, you know. But there's a place called Liz Sue Bagels. And there were certain times of the day where the bagels were coming out and they were still hot. And my father would go out and get them. He would get there like 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever when they were just coming out hot. And this place was relatively popular to the point where there would be a line at the door waiting for the door to be unlocked for that moment. And these bagels were so delicious. And my favorite bagel was the everything bagel. And let's say my father bought a dozen. And let's say 3 of them were everything bagels. I would literally go out of my way to make sure I ate all 3 of those everything bagels. Now, I'm just throwing numbers out there. If there was 6 everything bagels, I would get as close to eating all 6 as I could. I mean, that was just the way I thought. That was how unbalanced I was with food. And every time I tried to make a change, every time I tried to better my health, I even made that choice in an unbalanced way. I literally would do the exact opposite. Everything in my life was like a pendulum clock, either to the left or to the right, never in the center. All my life, I battled with this, on and off. Weight loss plan, not weight loss plan. Weight loss plan, not weight loss plan. Going crazy out of my mind to the point of being 26 years old and 460 pounds. At that point, at 26 years old, I was so incredibly unbalanced that it took drastic measures to make a correction in my life. And those drastic measures, you guys know, was gastric bypass surgery. And I thought the gastric bypass surgery was the answer to all of my problems. If I'm full, I won't eat. But nothing fixed the idea that I wanted to eat all of the everything bagels in the bag just because they made my stomach smaller. I just took longer to eat them. That's the reality of it. Post-op, and pre-op, the mentality was the same. I was obsessed with being the one that ate the food, no matter how long it took me. We fast forward to 2019, and my unbalanced life reared its ugly head for the second time. I'm over 400 pounds. So again, I need to make some changes and decide that I need to do this more balanced. So choosing a weight loss program that would bring balance into my life was the key. But even in that, I was still imbalanced. It was a different kind, though, because it was based on the scale result. You know that time period where I'm always telling you guys about, where it's immaturity? I call it the immature years of WW. Those years, however long that took to get over myself, those were extremely imbalanced years. So the minute a scale result did not go in my direction, the whole world was falling apart. Catastrophic failure, because I didn't like the result. It was, literally, if the scale dared go up, there are very few natural disasters that caused more damage than what was going on in my mentality. If the scale stayed the same or went in the other direction, the right direction, it would depend on how much. So even if I lost weight, if I didn't perceive that it was enough, I would still flip out. Not as much as I would if it went up, but I would still flip out. There was no balance. There was an all or nothing mentality. Either you give me exactly what I want, or I'm going to flip out screaming and crying and whatever else. There was really all kinds of things causing this imbalance too. It wasn't just what the examples I'm giving you. There was so much more than that. I was literally addicted to food. I was never clinically diagnosed with food addiction. I don't need a doctor to tell me that the behavior that I had didn't scream food addiction. People go crazy with vocabulary. Like it's the most horrible thing in the world to say the truth about your situation. And so they'll avoid saying words unless they're forced to deal with them by someone in a white coat. And even sometimes then, they'll completely ignore it. But I don't need a doctor to tell me I was addicted to food to know that I was addicted to food. And everything I ate was so imbalanced, basically from birth. From birth to 41, because that was the year that WW's journey started. 40 years of unbalanced eating and food addictions. And now, here I am almost 6 years into this. And I realize I have to find balance in another way. As you guys know, I am decorating for Christmas right now. And what comes with decorating for Christmas is the numerous trips to the attic, carrying very heavy bins in order to do what is necessary. This process began, I believe that Saturday was the 18th of October. That's when I started bringing stuff down for the downstairs, the inside of the house. And I was so wiped out. I was so tired. And I was so sore. But the unbalanced mentality exists. And the alarm goes off at 4 a.m. on Monday morning. And as sore, as tired, and as in pain I was, like almost all my joints from the waist down that first weekend were hurting. This is to the point of taking Advil to bring down inflammation. And like every 2 hours, Advil, Tylenol kind of a thing. So Monday comes and it's time to lift weights. And I'm so obsessed with not breaking the cycle to remain consistent in what I'm doing that there's just no way I'm taking into consideration the work I did over the weekend. All of that work is on top of walking about 15 miles total for the weekend. So you could say it's about 6 miles on Saturday and 7-8 miles on Sunday. So approximately 15 miles. So on top of walking almost 15 miles and going up and down the attic numerous times, carrying big boxes that are heavy, and going up and down ladders to put all of this stuff where it needs to go in the downstairs, I refused to stop myself working out. Now, strength training is a whole nother ball of wax when it comes to recovery and making sure you heal your muscles after, working them out. And to be honest, I don't know that I ever took it seriously until recent. About really, recovery is a serious thing, and it can't just be you ignoring it in the name of consistency. And it can't just be you ignoring it in the name of consistency. There has to be balance here. So I decide that when the next weekend comes along, I'm going to be like, okay, fine. I'll walk a little less, maybe. We'll see if we can't arrange that. So rather than 15 miles, it was more like 12 miles over the 2 days that I went walking. And then there was still more of the climbing ladders and everything else. Again, tons of joint pain. And this time it was more like the entire body. Shoulders, every joint you can think of from the neck down. Another weekend totally wiped out. The 4 a.m. alarm goes off on the Monday. I don't hesitate, get back to work. Again, no balance. So now this past weekend, I do things and I do them in phases. I have so much stuff that I set up. The first weekend was dedicated to putting up the tree and decorating it. The second weekend was literally doing the rest of the first floor except for the little Christmas village that I set up. And I set up 3 of them. 2 small ones and 1 large one. This past weekend was designated to setting up those 3 villages. On Saturday, I decide I'm going to do the 2 small ones because I know the large one is something that takes literally the entire day. It takes a lot of planning. It takes so much organization of wires and all kinds of things. Just to give you an idea, on Sunday, I was on my feet from noon to 7:30 p.m. dealing with this larger Christmas village after having walked the 7 miles that morning. I was in such bad shape that I felt like my body was forcing me to listen to it. For the first time in my life, I had to take seriously when people say, you know what, you better listen to your body. On Monday morning at like 2 a.m., I woke up to go to the bathroom. On my way to the bathroom, I was holding on to every piece of furniture I can grab onto in order to get to the bathroom. I had already taken a dose of Advil before going to sleep, and I was still feeling pain like this. It was at that moment that I decided, how could I really do anything here? How could I get anything done without injuring myself? But the way I was hobbling to the bathroom, there was just no way. So I took some Tylenol when I was coming back from the bathroom. I turned off the 4 a.m. alarm and decided there was just no way I was going to be able to do it. There is definitely a mental battle. Even though for the last 16 weeks, I had spent 8 of those weeks working out twice a week, and then the next 8 of those weeks working out 3 days a week. Even though establishing that kind of consistency, here I was ripping myself apart on Monday morning for turning off the alarm for as much pain as I was in that moment. It made me realize also just how imbalanced the world really is. I mean, think about all of the weight loss programs you can join. Not a single one of those weight loss programs is designed for you to find balance if you're looking at it through my eyes and see it for what it is. All of them are designed to keep the pendulum swinging. You are either in a cycle of gaining or in a cycle of losing. In a cycle of gaining or in a cycle of losing. There is no finding balance with food. There is no learning proper nutrition and eating for what your body needs versus what you're in the mood for. That is a huge transition. I mean, I, more than most people, can tell you that because of the extreme measures I've changed in order to get this far. I went above and beyond anything required of me when I received that autoimmune diagnosis, because it was more important to me to not be on medication for the rest of my life than it was for me to eat what I wanted. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot to decide something like that and then follow through with it, especially the way this world is built, because everything is set up that way. Everything's set up imbalanced. You go in January 1st, all in. You're going to do it. This time, this is your year. Meanwhile, you've said that at the beginning of every year for the last 20 years. This is my year. I'm doing it this year. This is my year. And so you flip a million switches and you do everything the exact opposite you've been doing for the last 20. There are no gradual changes planned over long periods of time. It is all at once. And just like that, the pendulum keeps swinging. And it's not just health either. As I speak to you right now, it's 7 o'clock on November 5th, 2024. It's election day, and I'm sure polls are about to close if they have not already closed on the East Coast. The current climate of politics in this country is a perfect example of how imbalanced this world is. If anyone ever was really paying attention, you can go to the campaign trail of every presidential election for the last 40 years, and they're talking about the same nonsense. Whether it's the red candidate or it's the blue candidate, they are talking about the same nonsense. 40 years at minimum. This is not by accident. It's by design. None of those people in that building, red or blue, has any inclination to fix anything that bothers you. Because if they fixed everything, if they literally accomplished every one of their campaign promises, all of a sudden you wouldn't need them anymore. And if you didn't need them anymore, you might actually pay attention to what they're actually doing. Because this is a sick, twisted world right now. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. The highest salary in that building full of politicians is the president. President makes like $400,000 a year, give or take something, right? So let's just say 400 to give an even number. If it's over 400, it's not over by much. How is it that a president can make that much money and come out a millionaire? If they're in office for 4 years and saved every dime, they would just be a millionaire. Just be a millionaire. You have representatives that are sitting in Congress, the Senate, whatever it is. They don't make as much as the president, but they have refrigerators behind them in their home, in their little videos they make, that are worth more than people's cars. How? How is it you can make, say, between $100,000 and $200,000 a year and afford a refrigerator that can cost as much as a car? No one asks these questions. No one notices. They're too busy fighting with each other because who's team red and who's team blue? By design, they have us all fighting each other while they never actually fix what they say they will fix. This country is on the brink of civil war. On the brink of civil war. Make no mistake. Whoever wins tonight, tomorrow will be chaos. And we are so ultimately divided right now that we're probably closer to civil war than we've ever been. And you know what the crazy thing about it all is? We'll all be fighting and killing each other. And none of this will ever end up on one of their doorsteps. They created the chaos with irresponsible media coverage, with nothing based in truth. Absolutely nothing based in truth. If any one of you ever read the book Rules for Radicals, you would suddenly see the world of politics in a whole nother light, because it's literally the Bible. The Bible for how politics is run, period. Throughout all time. Especially from the time of Hitler to now. It's ridiculous. We scream for change when we should become the change. We demand other people change things, but we aren't even willing to change ourselves. We aren't even willing to change ourselves for the name of our own health. So why would I ever expect anybody to become the change that will change the country? Instead, we just yell and scream to 500 or 600 people that work in a white building who are never going to change anything. We ask them to make the change instead of us doing what it takes to be the change. Now, we blindly go through life like idiots. And they laugh because they know we are. They know we're as stupid as they think that we are. They know it. Because here we are fighting with each other. On social media, in public, wherever it is. We're all fighting with each other. Team red, team blue, like they freaking matter. Politics is as real as wrestling. That's the point we are in this country. Mark my words, if voting ever becomes mandatory in this country, that's when you'll know it means nothing. Nothing is designed for us to live balanced with each other. Nothing. So long as Team Red and Team Blue are stirring the pot, none of us will ever get along because we're too busy taking what they say as gospel and attacking each other with it. While they sit in the room together with their backroom deals, laughing, while we all tumble into poverty. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. It's 7:18 right now. I'll make a prediction for you right now. 7:18 on Tuesday night. No matter which candidate wins, there will be chaos. I believe that with all my heart and soul. Regardless, there will be chaos. If the red candidate wins, the economy that has been propped up by the major global corporations all of these years to make it look like the people who are working for them were doing something, that entire structure will suddenly collapse. And they'll convince you that the red candidate is at fault for it. Meanwhile, I'm 46 years old. And the red candidate only had the opportunity for 4 of those years. And all of the rest of them have been around for the majority of my life. All of those guys that are sitting in that white building, laughing as we all fight each other. They sign things and make it possible for everyone to do anything. And all they're really doing is exploiting us in the process. While we all blame each other. If everyone in this country would one day wake up and realize just how much power they all have, we would be a dangerous force. That small group of people in that building works very hard to make sure we don't ever realize that. Instead, we stand up for stupid shit. I mean, perfect example is Budweiser. We all boycotted Budweiser how many years ago? Because we weren't agreeing with their message. And what really happened there? What was the result? Let's think about that for a second. What was the actual result of the big boycott? Joe Blow, the delivery guy, who has 3 kids and a wife to support at home, that guy lost his job. That's what happened. The suits that are all in the boardroom at the top of the whole thing that were orchestrating the political movement of the company, they all just made sure they got their yearly bonuses while they fired whoever they needed to in order to make that happen. They didn't get hurt. Meanwhile, they were the ones that orchestrated the entire thing. Joe Blow, the delivery guy, he got hurt. And now we sit here and we're yelling and screaming in Congress at Kellogg's because of whatever additives in the food. Like they didn't know those additives have been there for the last 40 years. Why just Kellogg's? Why not every single one of them all at once? Why are we concentrated on Kellogg's? And why are we screaming to the government to do something about it? We are the ones with all the power. If you don't like the practices of a company, simply spend your money somewhere else to a company whose practices you agree with. And then you know what happens to Joe Blow, the delivery guy? If you, instead of yelling and screaming in Congress like you're going to make some actual change, if you took your money to another company that you agreed with, then Joe Blow, the delivery guy, would get fired from Kellogg's and find a job with the company you decided to spend your money on. But you're not doing that. You're yelling and screaming for the government to regulate it. Your money speaks louder than anything any politician could say. And yet, it's the one thing you don't care to bother with. You won't give the time and effort needed to figure out what food you can buy that's healthy. Because in reality, you don't really care. You want everybody else to change without you having to change. That's the real thing. If you ever wanted the world to actually change, it has to start with you, with me, with everyone. It doesn't start with us going into a white building and yelling and screaming for a bunch of them to take more of our money so that they can promise to maybe someday, probably, fix it by a percentage point. We are as stupid as they think we are. And the other people that drive me crazy lately are the people that God is in control. God is in control. How could God be in control in a world full of people with free will? The two don't exist at the same time. Either God is in control or the people have free will. The only way for God to have control is if everyone decided to look to him for the decision. And we all know that not everyone is doing that. I mean, they won't even look for a company to better spend their money on. So why would they do that? It's been a very distracting day. It's been very hard to come up with an idea of how to portray this message to you with everything going on. I think I found a way in the end. Specifically into your health. If you could apply this here, you can literally apply it anywhere. You guys all have this picture in your mind of what you want life to be like, what you want to look like, and how you believe that if you could just be that scale number, you would be happy. But none of you wants to be the change that it takes to create that. That's what it'll take. In order to be the person you envision in your mind, whatever size you are, whatever scale number you are, whatever you're wearing, in order for you to become that vision, you have to become the change that would create that vision. As long as you're trying to live with the stuff that's killing you, you're not going to be anywhere near that vision. And the overwhelming majority of the people will never get there because they spend too much time compromising the vision to fit what they want. In other words, they spend more time compromising the goal so that they can live with not changing anything. And if you could start there, if you could become the change that will create the vision that you see when you dream of stepping on that scale one day and being at whatever number, if you could start being that change, then not only could you be the change for your health, you could be the change for the country. You could be the change for the world. It starts with the change. Nothing changes unless you change. So I have one question. Are you willing to become the change in order to create your vision of health? Take a moment and picture what true health means in your mind's eye. Close your eyes and take a moment to picture it. Now, are you willing to become the change necessary to bring that vision to life? Notice how I said, are you willing? Because I already know every last one of you is capable. The question is never, are you capable? The question is always going to be, are you willing? Because we live in a world where people want what they want so long as it's not too uncomfortable to get it. So you have to forget the nonsense of actually achieving those dreams, those goals, those visions without being uncomfortable. Because it just doesn't happen that way. So I'll ask again, are you willing to become the change necessary to bring that vision to life? Until you decide that, nothing's going to change. Again, nothing changes unless you change. You can't do the same things over and over and over again. You can't have the same conversations over and over and over again and act like it's cute when you do the things that you do, when you do things you know will not give you the success you're looking for, will not create the vision that you want. You can't act like it's cute to do those things. Becoming the change is the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's literally the hardest thing you'll ever do for a reason. Because if you could manage to create the discipline necessary to become the change that changes your life, not only are you changing your life, you're changing literally the generations that will come after you. You're changing them all because everyone is watching you. Everyone is watching you. And if you could become the change to create the vision, you're going to change all of their visions. How amazing would that be for you to start the spark? You will be the flame to the gasoline that ignites the fire of change and creates generational transformation. How amazing would that world be if you would just decide today whether or not you are willing to become the change that creates the vision. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.